So let's get into the functionality of this thing. So we're going to have a session tomorrow. We're producing. I'm going to talk about one piece. Dude, this is not a biscuit. So without further ado, we're going to talk about this thing. I bought this to be simple. I have a second room here. We just did an interview with hip-hop legend Cormega, and a shout out to my buddy Desmond. I started doing more traveling. I just did a job where I took a Kai MPC-1 and helped an artist create some drum patterns and loops. Shout out to my buddy Freddie. And I actually wanted something where if I needed to just go up and get out of the studio for a minute, clear my head, hook up some headphones and just listen and do some mobile stuff, I could have an interface to do that. Also, when I'm editing video, the room upstairs has a Mac Pro, and I was thinking about it. This is a Core Audio driver where it's just like ASIO. You can on PC, and it's Core Audio on Mac. You literally plug it in and it plays, and it actually did on some older Macs. My studio computer is a Mac 5.1 that's been upgraded. The reason that I still use it, it's a huge computer. It's 12 core, 64 gigs of RAM. Shout out to bad boy Dave Marco on that. So let me talk about the interface, and let me talk about, is this something you could probably use in your studio and get away with? They consider this an 8 output. Honestly, I don't know where they are. So I'm going to give you the short run. Actually, I think I do. I think you can make these instruments outs and these outs. I'll have to double check, but I'm going to talk about the stuff I have used it for. They consider it a 12 input. Well, why is that? There's only 4 inputs here. Well, it's mic and line. No, a lot of people don't know this, which is cool because I did one of my first videos and I was actually doing this with a Digi 002. If you've watched that video, it was old school, but it's still pretty cool. You have an ADAT in. And the ADAT in, I wish I had one of the cables around, but that's literally fiber optic. It is right here. I do have a cable. There's no way you can see that. But it's a fiber optic cable, and it carries that red pipe, that light pipe. You can see it for like AT&T and stuff like that. Light pipe is able to carry 8 channels of audio. So what does that mean? That means you can use like this old thing, like this 192 from Avid. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm pretty sure you can do it. You can go ADAT out of this, send its 8 outputs to the 8 inputs. That's pretty cool. Okay, they didn't have to put that in there. And actually, what's cool about that, if you're not happy with the conversion quality, you can actually upgrade the conversion quality by utilizing this. So you can go Amari out, like my Antelope, which is designed to sound really good. You can go ADAT out of that to the ADAT into this, clock this from the Amari, and now you have 6 more, or you got 2 more channels from the Amari, then you have the 4 on the front, you have 6 in, 12 out. If I did it this way, that would be 8 channels going from fiber optic, giving this a grand total of 12 inputs, which is more than enough, or about enough to really record a drum kit. I'm talking with a lot of mics. Or you could pretty much record your whole band. What's cool about this, and I think it's cool for like today's modern producer, or for like a band, or if you want to track at home, is by doing that, now you have 12 inputs, but what's cool is it comes with this software called SSL 360. The SSL 360 is low latency monitoring, so you can actually monitor just the source before it hits Pro Tools or Logic or whatever, and now you can actually monitor what pre the DAW, because we know for a fact the only thing that I know that kills these smaller interfaces is they have latency issues. You know, if you get into these big HD systems and so forth, then you're sort of combating that with a lot more money. You're throwing money at it. But today's interfaces and the way that they're getting these things to be very, very low latency and very inexpensive is really, really important, especially if you've been in a session and you're trying to record vocals and all you can hear is your voice back like 4 milliseconds later, and it's like driving you nuts. That's not going to fly in a home studio or a professional studio. So it's been a debate in the digital world for years since I got in it, is how do we set it so we have no latency. This thing is designed to do that. And I actually tried that out on a podcast where had a headphone mix when I was doing that podcast for the interview, and it sounded awesome. I was like, dang, dude, I can hear myself. There's no latency. It's loud enough. I'm not like pressed to get more headphone amp, and it was really cool. So that's a big key feature. So you can actually incorporate better conversion, more channels. That's what sold me on this. Like, I was looking at the 2 and some of the other interfaces, and I'm like, that's the only reason I bought this, like, so I could do that kind of job. The other thing is simplicity and being able to use your monitors. Most interfaces in this price range have a monitor controller. What I like about this monitor controller, though, which was a big selling factor for me, is it does have a Talkback mic. And that Talkback mic, if you believe it or not, there's been studios where they have big, large format consoles, and I mean millions of dollars worth of gear, and they got like a little microphone set up, and it's like, okay, do it again, because the Talkback broke on your board or something. And this is just a feature that SSL, I think, went above and beyond, honestly, because there's not a lot of interfaces today that have a Talkback mic, which it might sound simple to you, but it's really, really important to me. The other thing I used it for was the MIDI out and the MIDI in. That's not standard on most interfaces. You usually have to buy an external interface to get that. And so the SSL out, I was able to run into an Akai MPC sampler and actually use this along with an HD system and just use the MIDI side of the interface. So I went into Pro Tools, went to MIDI beat clock, and then synced it, and it worked perfect. It was like instant, and it had no issues, which some interfaces, MIDI interfaces, I've had issues where it's timing offset and stuff, and I'm like, this is insane. This thing just worked right out of the box. Really cool. The other thing I really like this for with the monitor feature is the built-in pre's. They're line level for keyboards, etc., rerouting a signal to do inserts and hook up hardware. Or you got microphones. Now, what I did when I did the podcast, mic in, hit on the 48 volt phantom power, turned it up, got the preamp I wanted, hooked up my headphones right there, listened to the track using the control software, and it worked perfect. So the last 2 features I want to talk about, and hopefully I gave you enough education. The one is called Loopback. And what Loopback is cool for is I could open up a Pro Tools session, and I could be doing a video like this, and I can actually loop back internally that audio, and I can tell like my screen capture software or QuickTime or Skype, if I'm doing a Skype session and I'm mixing, I can actually loop back the final audio. And in the SSL 12, you can actually pick and choose what you want to loop back. So you could just loop back channel 1, separate it from the rest of the, the sources. You could loop back the whole entire mix bus, and then you could send that. And that's a really cool feature, so you don't have to do multiple interfaces to get that done. You can actually do it internally in the box. So the SSL with loopback, top shelf. And last but not least, I've been getting calls all day, but last but not least, something that I noticed when you register this, you actually get some pretty cool software. The 2 things that stuck out to me was they're giving you the SSL Vocal Strip 2, which I use a lot. I mean, I actually use it as much as my other channel strips, but for channel strip, it's like an SSL board. And then you have, along with that, you have a thing, and I can shout out to a guy I've been mixing. He's been putting it all over his tracks, but it's the SSL drum strip that is by far one of the best transient designers with harmonics, noise gating, and all that. And you get that included with this interface. So those 2 alone, I think I looked up the price on the SSL drum strip. It's like $200 by itself or even more. And the vocal strip's about that. So that's 2 pretty awesome plugins that you get to own when you buy this interface. The last one that I did notice, and there was a bunch of free, trials of certain things like auto-tune and some stuff like that. There's some cool synth packs that you get. But one that stood out to me was Melodyne. Melodyne Essentials, it's not the super, upgraded version, but if you're trying to do some basic in the box vocal correction. I'm a really big fan of Melodyne. So with all that being said, I think SSL has really stepped up in giving people quality for a very affordable price. So my name's Doug Jenkins, iMixandMaster.com. Shout out to SSL, and if you guys are out there, hopefully you continue to support the channel, and we'll keep them coming. We'll see you. Miles. So last but not least, I just ended the video, and I said, you know what, man, I better check and see if this thing works with an iPad. And I plugged my USB-C into my iPad Air, and it worked perfect, man. That's crazy, because that was actually something I was really concerned about, because I was looking at other interfaces that really advertise that. So as a bonus, it works with the iPad. All right, now we'll see you. I'll see you guys later.